Alright, boys and girls. Time for another chapter of Congresswolf. Are you ready? Where were we? Oh, yes. I, or Mr. Torchetti, is desperately trying to get money for the campaign to keep it going, so that Ms. Goodpenny has a chance at being president. All while a new outbreak of werewolfism, or lycanthropy, is starting to spread throughout the country. This should make things rather interesting, shouldn't it? Now, if money is the blood of the campaign, your organizers and volunteers in the field are its hands and feet, knocking on doors, making phone calls, running local events. They're your main contact with voters and your best means of getting them out to the polls come election day. An army of volunteers can knock on doors and man phones to help persuade voters to support Goodpenny. They're not as effective as paid staff, but what they lack in quality and fixed schedules, you can make up for in quantity. Hiring precinct captains in key voter precincts can give you vital edge in both persuasion and getting out the vote. They'll get up close and personal with the voters in their territories, finding out what makes them tick and carrying out contact programs to stay in touch with existing supporters and persuade undecided voters to vote for Goodpenny. Finally, Goodpenny voters don't necessarily have to be found. They can be made. By identifying potential supporters and targeting them with a voter registration program, it won't be cheap, but if you're worried you won't get a big enough share of voting pie, one way around that is to make the pie bigger. Now, real quick, did we ever decide how much needed to be spent? If not, I know what to do. We shall go to the tweets. I did ask y'all to help me out with this, boys and girls, so let's see. This media is not available because it includes content you've chosen not to see. What? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Ugh. Oh, well, that's a little frustrating. Okay, well, for the sake of this, boys and girls, let's go down the middle, so we'll go with 15,000. Okay? An election is like a battle, only hopefully a lot less bloody. Every neighborhood is a battlefield, and a miniature election is conducted within each precinct. To win the fight, you need people who know the terrain, people who can spend the time getting up close and personal with voters. Street by street, your precinct captains will scout the territory, rally the troops, and bring you the vital intelligence you need to win the war. Okay. I can either cancel the precinct captain program, save that 15,000, although I just agreed on doing it. We can go ahead, bring in the volunteers as well. And register new voters. But for this, since I don't know what else they're going to throw, let's say I'm done with the field budget. It's down the middle. It gives us a little bit of wiggle room just in case. And there you go. You haven't spent any money on fundraising. You should make sure to do so, because you can't run a campaign without fundraising. Should I set a finance budget so I can raise money faster? Set a field budget so that the campaign is in contact with more... Well, I already did the field budget. Set a polling budget so I know which way the electoral winds are blowing. Finance or polling? Let's go with... Let's stick with finance. Because as we all know in politics, sometimes it doesn't matter if you get all the votes or not. You've got to spend money to make money. It's as true here as it is on Wall Street. Every dollar in that spreadsheet came out of a donor's pocket, and parting them from their hard-earned cash to support Goodpenny's re-election takes a deft touch and money, ironically enough. You need to pay for fundraising events, email campaigns, and personal contact with the folks whose pockets are deep enough to warrant it. Professional call centers aren't cheap, but what they lack in frugality, they make up for with sheer volume of donors they can contact. Armed with a list of your known and likely supporters, they can coax cash out of the wallets in volume. A less expensive option is to buy a list of high-dollar donors for targeted fundraising. If you can coax the folks with fat wallets to open them up to you, you can raise money in bigger chunks from fewer donations. On the other hand, many campaigns raise big money in small pieces, raking in the dough with smart online programs. If the average person on the street thinks Goodpenny is worth giving money to, you can cash in on that with a well-designed website and a good online strategy. So I've got $35,000 to work with. If we commission a redesign of Goodpenny's website, that's going to cost $15,000. We hire a call center to make phone calls to donors. That's the rest of the budget. That's $35,000 right then and there, gone. If we rent a list of big money donors to cozy up for cash, that's $20,000. In this day and age, online is the way to go. And by that, we can connect with social media and all sorts of things. So we're going to go that route, okay? You like that, boys and girls? This isn't 1999, and the era of free money on the internet is long since over. But if Goodpenny is popular enough with everyday voters, she can still rake in the dough with well-written pleas to her email list. You sketch out a few quick ideas in an email to your contact with the company who manages your site, although you know they'll come back with a dozen more of their own. All right. Done with finance. Cash on hand, $50,000. Current budget, $30,000. Left to spend, $20,000. Let's at least look at the polling. Let's at least look. Every campaign needs to have its fingers on the pulse of the voters, and that means polls. Not all polls are created equal, though. Preparing a survey, calling voters, asking them questions, crunching the numbers, it all costs money. And the more questions you ask, the more it costs. The horse race numbers, who's winning and who's losing and by how much, let you know how Goodpenny is doing today. But if you want a glimpse at what's ahead, You'll want to poll for the candidate's approval ratings as well. In the end, undecided voters are going to break in the favor of the person they approve of most for the job, or the one they disapprove of the least. Now we can commission a pollster to come up with a horse race numbers. Who's winning and losing is all I care about. That's going to be $15K right there. I mean, I've already done everything else. I've already got what I want set up, so this might be our best bet. How many votes Goodpenny and Nermal get is the number that counts on election day, but if it doesn't tell you anything about the undecided voters. On the other hand, money saved is money that can be spent winning more of those votes. You sign the contract for a baseline set of polls and shoot it back to the pollster. Alright, yeah, done with the budget. Okay, so we got $5K left. When she hired you, Maggie promised that the two of you would hire the bulk of the campaign staff together. Looking over her schedule, you realize she'd meant right away. Her calendar for today is packed with back-to-back interviews with people applying to be the campaign's finance director. You find yourself half hoping that some of them will be scared off by her death and won't show up, just to give you a break. But you're out of luck. You question candidate after candidate. Names and backgrounds and strengths and weaknesses start to blur together. At last, after far longer than you imagined it could have taken, the parade of interviews is over, and you're left alone in the office with a pile of resumes. The interviews have done their job, though, and you've winnowed the options down to 3 potential hires. Kendra came with a raft of high-powered references and an address book that reads like a who's who of major Republican donors. You spent most of the interview discussing the $500 a plate dinners and exclusive fundraisers full of glitterati. Soon Lee didn't move in such rarefied circles, but she was fresh off a major youth poverty campaign, where she'd crowdfunded a multi-million-dollar initiative over the internet. She spoke animatedly about building a massive email list and social media following, and raising the money you need in many small donations. Mariana's resume was average at best when it came to stroking wealthy egos or building an online army, but the look in her eye and the tone of her voice when she promised you results at any cost made it clear that she was willing to go above and beyond to get the job done. Above and beyond the law, if that was what it took. Ooh. Okay, boys and girls. I think this is where we're going to leave things off. Who am I hiring? Who are we hiring? Are we taking on Kendra, the one with the most stroke? Are we calling in Soon Lee with the media background? Or are we going with Mariana, the one who may or may not be up and up with how they're willing to get results? I mean, politics can be pretty cutthroat, but I don't think we mean literally. Anyway, help me out. Please. Hopefully I figure out what the heck I'm doing with these polls. But please, do my poll on Twitter. I'll even put a copy of the link in the description. Who am I hiring? Who are we hiring? Kendra the fast-talking money girl. Soon Lee, the internet-savvy one. Or Mariana, we'll say she's dedicated. Just remember to like, share, and subscribe. Ring the bell to stay notified. Now it's time to tuck yourselves in. Remember, please help me with that poll. This has been another Thorytime Thursday. And always remember, vote good penny.